To create animation in your Flutter game, you will need a sprite sheet. Refer to the previous video for how to create a sprite sheet with Texture Packer. If you have your sprite sheet and your sprite sheet JSON file, create a brand new project in Flutter and let's get started. I'm just going to build my project on Android for now. The sprite sheet and the sprite sheet JSON file are just somewhere on my desk. I haven't put it into my project yet. Once my Flame project is created, I will add it to the assets directory of my Flutter Flame game. Change into the directory of your newly created Flutter project. You will need to add two new packages for this tutorial: Flame and Flame Texture Packer, which is a separate package. Let's start off by adding Flame with Flutter pub add Flame. Then you need to add Flutter pub add Flame underscore Texture Packer. Your sprite sheet does need to be created with Texture Packer for this tutorial. Refer to my other tutorials if you don't want to use the free version of Texture Packer. Start up your editor. I'm using VS Code with the Dart and Flutter extensions installed. Create a new folder called Assets. In Assets, create images. We're going to store our sprite sheet in the Images folder within Assets. The sprite sheet will go into the Assets Images folder, and the spritesheet.json file will go directly into the Assets folder. I will introduce an error here and put the spritesheet.json file in the Images folder so you can see what happens when the program cannot find either your JSON file or your image file. The JSON file was automatically created for us with Texture Packer. The game assets are from GameArt2D in their freebie section. Thanks, GameArt2D. In the pubspec.yaml file, we're going to need to add the locations of the new assets that we inserted into our Flame game project. So uncomment the assets section. The specific location is assets/images. I'm going to specify it with a specific file. You could also just specify the directory, it would work. The location of the spritesheet.json should be in assets, but note that I did intentionally have an error where I stuck it into images first so that we can see what happens. Let's get rid of the code that's in the default Flutter project when you first create it with Flutter Create. It's going to be a very skinny program here with just the run app. Below the main method, we're going to add a new class that extends the Flame game class. Flame game is part of Flame. I'm going to call my game my sprite tutorial. You could call your game something else. So it extends Flame game. Again, Flame game is part of the Flame package. You must import it if you don't have the automatic import. Pay attention to line 1 where it does import Flame game. Game widget is the new widget from Flame that runs the game. It has a single parameter in this case, which is the instantiated object of my sprite tutorial, which is our Flame game. I'm going to delete the test folder because we're not going to use it in this tutorial. Let's start up an Android emulator. I'm using a Pixel 2 emulator and see whether our game runs. It should be a completely black screen. Think of the completely black screen as a blank canvas for you to paint your creativity on it with your wonderful games. To illustrate what's going on, I'm just going to put a simple print statement into the main method, and I am putting it in the wrong place. Let's put it above the run app now, so that you can see what happens when the app first runs. Then within the Flame game class below, we're going to add a onload method. At the current time, nothing is happening on the mobile phone. The run app print statement is simply to show you what happens when the main method is run. The next step is to run the app. The app is running the game widget. Now we jump over to the game widget. There is a onload method, which is from Flame. This is where the assets, an asset is an image, and in this case, we want to load the sprite sheet. Initially, our onload method is blank except for the super.onload. We're just going to print a statement to let you know that the onload method is running. Once you understand the concept that the onload method runs automatically when Flame game is instantiated, we're going to add a bunch of assets to it to access in other parts of our game. The most critical component that we'll be dealing with is the SpriteAnimationComponent, the main component for animation within the Flame game system. This is a position component. We can move it around as well. I'm going to put the late keyword in front of the variable name so that we can instantiate it within the onload method. I want this thing above the onload method because we want to access it from other methods in the future, such as the update method. For now, we just want to load the sprite animation. I've declared the sprite animation component as girl walking, so there'll be a sprite animation component for when the girl walks, another one for when she runs in the future. To load all our sprites from the sprite sheet, we're going to use from JSON Atlas from the Flame Texture Packer package. You may need to manually import Flame Texture Packer. This is a different package from Flame. It's not part of the standard Flame package. It's a separate package. So Flame _ texture packer. This is just a small utility program to make it easier to read the JSON file from Texture Packer. There are other ways to load the sprite animation component. You don't need to use Texture Packer. I'm just using it in this tutorial. And keep in mind that there's other tutorials that deal with other formats that's not from Texture Packer. But if you do use Flame Texture Packer, you can just pass it the name of the sprite sheet and the name of the sprite sheet JSON file. And it's not working. It's bright red because it's not finding the sprite sheet.json file. So let's move that sprite sheet.json file into the correct location, which should be off of the assets folder and not the assets/images folder. Although that bright red screen may be a bit intimidating to you, just ignore it and get used to it because you may see it again in the future. I guess it is super clear that you do have an error, but I do find that bright red, full red screen a bit intimidating. I had to completely stop the application, not just do a hot restart to get it to read in the sprite sheet again, but now there's no errors and we're good to go for the next step, which will be the exciting sprite animation. In this step, we'll get to specify the step, which will be the speed that our girl walks at, how fast she moves her arms and legs in the screen. The syntax is sprite animation dot sprite list, and then we're going to have the name of the variable for the sprite sheet that we specified in the line above. The step time will be a double. At a step time of 0.5, she'll be moving kind of slowly, but we'll be able to at least see her legs and arms move. The sprite animation just makes the girl move in place, meaning that her arms and legs will move, but she's not moving around the screen. In order to have her move around the screen, we need a sprite animation component, which is a position component. So the position components are the ones that you can specify the X and Y coordinates of the girl, and they can be updated so that she can appear to move across the screen. The sprite animation component has a parameter for animation. The animation that we created, then we called walk, with a step time of 0.5. The sprite animation component, which we're calling girl walk, I think, has also a position. So we're going to start her off. Her upper left-hand corner will be at 100 by 100. And we'll need to give our girl walking sprite animation component a size, or else when we try to make her appear, she will be too small and we will not be able to see her. She's so small because she has a size of 0 and is invisible. But if we give her a size as a vector 2, hopefully she will appear on the screen. Vector 2. And it's the X and Y, so it's her width and her height 200 by 200 pixels. Her upper left-hand corner should be at 100 by 100. The upper left-hand corner of the screen is 0, 0. There she is, and she's walking very slowly. In the next video, we'll have her walk around the screen, meaning that we'll adjust her position based on the XY coordinate system. The upper left-hand corner of the mobile app screen is 0, 0. And so we're going to drop her down by adjusting the Y coordinate and have her move to the right in an update loop based on the X coordinate system. Flame Game does come with its own update method, and we'll use that in the next tutorial. The main concept is that the update method is a loop, and if you change the X position, you can change it in a loop so that you can just keep moving and moving across the screen. See you in the next video. Have a great day. There are many other videos in the 2022 Flame tutorial series, as well as 26 videos in the 2021 series. Subscribe to the channel for future updates. These videos are on Teachable as a free course. There's no upsell, as this is purely a hobby for me. I'm using Teachable only for the progress, so you can see how far you have progressed through the course. It also makes it easier for me to organize the videos and the sequence of information that I'm presenting. In whatever way you choose to learn, the most important thing is to keep on trying to learn and have fun while doing it. Have a great day.